The Spin-off Podcast Network.
This is Kiwi is back for a brand new season with more inspiring kōrero from special guests including rugby player, father and role model TJ Perenara.
My family bring me joy. Rugby brings me joy too, but it's not the same joy as my family brings me.
And global dancer and choreographer Kirsten Dodgen.
For some reason, people think I'm very intimidating.
Listen to the new season of This is Kiwi, brought to you by the Spin-off Podcast Network in collaboration with KiwiBank. Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you curious about how business can be better? I'm Simon Pound, and I host Business is Boring, a podcast where I kōrero with some of the most interesting people in entrepreneurship, commerce, and making things happen. Tune in to Business is Boring every Tuesday, brought to you by the Spin-off Podcast Network in partnership with Spark Business Lab.
Science has never been more important as we confront the biggest challenges of our time. Explore postgraduate study in science at the University of Otago. Find out more at otago.ac.nz/PG Sciences.
Kia ora, welcome to The Real Recap. Jane Ye here, joined by Duncan Grieve. Just the two of us, just a lovely pair, which is kind of how it's all ended up this week. Just peering off.
I must say that the closer it gets to the conclusion, normally there's this lull towards the end of a reality show and then the finale is the whole bit, but this is amazing. I'm so loving it.
They just keep flipping the script on us. It's wild and I love it, and I feel like as the viewers, we're like the other player in the game.
Oh, yeah?
Well, just in the sense that we don't know what's coming. Like, it's not like a really set in stone formula. Like, they keep changing it from what it was like last season, you know?
Yeah,
I
got it now. What I think is that this plus The Apprentice Aotearoa show you just how much great stuff can be done with reality TV IP. Like, it shouldn't just be this was not. Neither of these are cynical reboots. I think they're almost certainly like a lot better than the original incarnations, and they are not content to just kind of roll out the same source material. Like The Apprentice Aotearoa, they just flipped it and made it a comedy. With this, they're just completely ripping up all of the rule book, and almost it feels like they're doing it on the fly, like leaning into the way that the characters are so in the game. It's just brilliant. I love it.
And if you want more in-depth media analysis, join Duncan Grieve for The Fold. It's out every Monday on the Spin-off Podcast Network. We've also got Breast Assured, which was launched recently and is wrapping up soon. It's just a lovely short series, very digestible. So make sure you check that out. That's in conjunction with Breast Cancer Foundation NZ. And launching this week on Thursday, very exciting, Ne a Te Ao Māori podcast. It is, if you've seen the cover art, like incredible, and that is very representative of the podcast itself. So make sure you follow that, listen, like, subscribe, rate, review, okay? As for this dusty old podcast.
The granddaddy of them all, though, let's be honest.
Yeah, the Candy Lane, or the Uncle Buck.
I mean, I haven't heard Nair yet, but Breast Assured is so good. Congrats on that. But this is the original, the Fantasy Suite, still in operation. Bit dusty, needs a wash. For
anyone who's only been tuning in for the Celebrity Treasure Island recaps, we will be wrapping up, obviously, with the end of the season. But you can join me and Duncan and Alex for the regular Real Pod, which is still a great time, by the way. So, just follow this feed and that will just pop up on your pod player anyway. You're welcome. Okay, so let's get into it. We're recapping Celebrity Treasure Island. We're up to episode 22. And watching the opening credits, it's so bonkers to think of all the people we've lost, all the celebs that have gone before. And, do you remember Casey Frank?
I remember Casey Frank.
That seems like 3 years ago.
Casey Frank rated himself and did for the 30 seconds he was on the show, seemed like he'd be a threat. And then the eliminations, no joke, man.
Gone. And you never know what skills are going to come into play in the elimination. So just being a tall, muscly dude isn't necessarily what's going to get you to the final, as we have discovered. I mean, Candy Lane is still there.
I think that Candy will be one of my 3 favourite people from the show by the end of it. I find
It's
her
so funny.
Very emotionally engaging.
She was so not in the show for such a long time, and now she's like in the final, 6? That's just bonkers, and she's getting a lot more airtime now. Anyway, we started Ep 22 with Lance having a lovely sleep-in with his 1 pirate coin linen. And chugging some coffee because he was feeling very bougie. He doesn't drink coffee. He's not supposed to be drinking coffee because he's got bad heart, but he's just like really leaning into that luxe hotel life on the beach. And the other thing that I noticed of this episode is that Chris's beard is really, really coming in. The charity challenge was this Play-Doh thing. It was just the only real thing of note that happened in this Play-Doh challenge was Candy made a giraffe, and while it may not have looked like a giraffe, it became very obvious that it was an animal with a long neck. And Lance, for love nor money, could figure out an animal with a long neck might be a giraffe. It was incredible. Chris and Bryn were paired up for this, and obviously they basically live inside each other's heads, so they won $5,000 to share between their 2 charities. And now it's just all... By the way, feel free to interrupt me anytime, Dunk.
No, it's all right. I'm enjoying it.
It's all just like alliance talk from here on in now, right? The whole 3 episodes is just alliance chat the whole way. And Jess is kind of caught in the middle. She's with the oldies.
I don't think she's caught in the middle. I think she's very deliberately staked out the middle.
You reckon she's doing a deliberate straddle?
Yeah, I think she is. She's absolutely straddling. What I think happened is that she wanted to be in the young group, but just because there weren't enough beds, she ended up getting put with the oldies, and then was actually like, I think I can make this work now, because she's a very good and able player of the literal games, but with the big games she didn't really know quite what to do because she can't lie. Like, she just doesn't do it. But so she's basically told them both that she's in both alliances, and because she's so good, they're both like, we'd much rather have whatever we can get of her than anything else. It's Jess and Lance are the 2 like just absolute savants of this thing. Chris is the commentator. Like, he's very good, but he's also just kind of an everyman on some level. And then you've got 3 who are just sort of hanging out.
Chris is pretty wise to what's going on. Like, he's got everyone's numbers, I feel, but at the same time, there's only so much you can control. Like, just knowing that you can't trust someone isn't enough to be able to control your fate, you know?
Oh, absolutely not.
So he does serve well as a commentator. I think while Jess and Lance are both like major contenders, they're also playing really, really differently. Like you say, Jess can't lie. Lying Lance. I mean, that should be his new name. He is lying with fervour.
But it's like he's figured out that he's really good at it, even though it's not his natural mode. And now he's addicted. Like, he can't stop. He loves it. I mean, I don't know if you watched the next week on Celebrity Treasure Island, but it was just astounding. Like,
I deliberately didn't because I want it all to be a surprise. Like, I don't want to spend the next week consumed by what I saw.
All it is, it's just a little bit of in the moment of Lance. It always feels like, one of those scenes from like a Batman reboot where the villain just sort of either reveals themselves or finally understands their true nature, and there's just this kind of extraordinary outpouring from them. That was Lance.
Oh my God, I can't wait. I mean, he alluded to that at the end of this week's episodes.
I've got the quotes, but we'll get to that.
Okay. Anyway, so what happened then? We had a little arm wrestle session at one point.
Yeah, which Anna took out. Anna
took out.
And she was a gun. Like, it was not an accident that she won. She had the technique. She went over the top. She's seen the Stallone movie from the 80s. And she just kind of ground everyone to dust. I was like, Jess is going to take this. She looks so strong. But Anna's got that lean kind of ultra-marathoner physique that just can't be broken down. It was amazing.
And Buck getting in there and reffing it was great too. It's like the first time I really saw him come alive at, some silly little activity that they were doing to pass the time. He was like, I can get on board with this. There was an individual challenge. The prize was a steak lunch, and this was the one where they had like the rolly boat thing on the what are they called, blocks of wood? Logs. And then puzzle bits and sacks on rope and the cargo net and all this kind of thing. And there was a weird divide where it was almost the two alliances except for one person on each swapped out. And so Lance decided he'll try and throw it so that would advantage the rest of the awesome foursome. But instead, Jess won. And he was like working directly with Jess as a peer at one part of it. So he was rubbish at throwing it.
Well, no, I think he did quite a good job because he was really he made the boat go slow. That's the main thing that he had control over. He just doesn't have control over the fact that Jess is an absolute freak at those puzzles.
And again, it speaks to just you can only control so much.
It does. It also speaks to if Jess makes the final, which is a lot more puzzly, she is going to be formidable.
Okay, so Jess decides to take Anna for her steak dinner, and then she's struggling to choose between Candy and Edna because Edna's her pal. But Candy was on her team, and Candy, apparently according to Edna, Candy swooped in and peer pressured Jess into choosing her, and then they cut to Candy barely whispering, "I'm a party."
And
that was her.
Candy, you are a party.
Who could resist that? And actually it was probably a wise move anyway because it was a good opportunity for Jess to get in and have a conversation with them without sneaking off,
Oh, absolutely.
She spends a lot of one-on-one time with Edna as it is, so she can talk to Edna any old time.
And Candy has spent this whole competition being disregarded and thrown up to elimination as if it's a foregone conclusion. Somehow her confidence isn't shot. Somehow she's she's obviously been very successful in her life, but it's obviously wounded her. And so you could see that Jess, by making what is functionally quite a small gesture, got a massive amount of goodwill out of Candy as a result. And I think, it was a nice thing to do, which, doesn't happen often on reality TV, but it was also strategically a really smart thing to do, I think.
And it also gave us the opportunity to see them all dress up and put on a bit of lippy. Did you notice they were all wearing dresses and stuff? It was extremely cute.
I did
for their ladies' lunch.
I'm terrible. I don't notice really obvious stuff.
Oh, it was really sweet. And then, there was some stretch chat about putting up Chris and putting up Edna, and it feels like it's so long ago I can't even really remember. But they go back to back at camp while this is going on. The awesome foursome are trying to get Buck to share his clue. And you know how when they try and get people to share their clues, they kind of cozy up to them and they try and convince them that they're trustworthy and all this. But with Buck, there's none of that. It's just Buck, you're going to share your clue, and just trying to, I don't know. They know that he's not going to, right?
Yeah.
They didn't even bother trying, really. They just asked outright.
The clue trading is quite fun. I particularly enjoyed Candy's approach.
Yes.
And Lance's just complete horror at her having handwritten it. If she'd actually made up a fake clue, I would have been so impressed. That would have been the ultimate double cross.
I mean, should we go? No, we won't go straight to that. It's still a while away.
No, we've got to talk about. I think so. Was there an elimination?
Yes, there was an extremely significant elimination challenge because one of the hot favourites for the win ended up going home. So Lance put up Buck. If you remember from last week, Lance won one of the elimination challenge, one of the individual challenges.
That's right.
And then Jess won the one this week, which meant both of them got to choose who they were putting up. So Lance puts up Buck and Jess puts up Brinley. She was apparently going to put up Chris. That was the agreement. I don't remember hearing any conversations about that, which I feel is a bit of I don't want people having strat chat off camera.
No, that's not allowed.
Makes it difficult for me. But anyway, they have that the unofficial alliance have that's
the
save someone card, the switch out. So they switch out Buck for Edna. And then there's this challenge that was Edna just absolutely, I felt like it was over in 15 seconds.
It was freakish.
It was squishing a little, well, it wasn't really squishing, but balancing a ball in a wedge between a paddle on a long stick. Oh, you saw it. I don't need to explain it. But going back and walking down the pole and coming back and holding it, and Brinley did not stand a chance.
It was almost, if I didn't know better, I know that these are supreme craftsmen making these things. I was was Edna's just easier? Did they have some kind of a hollow there? Because she really really made it look incredibly easy. And Brindley might still be there. You know,
I definitely think if you're up against Edna in an elimination challenge, she can get in your head. Just like the fact that you're up against Edna, you know?
Yeah, she does have this kind of like, I don't know, like some kind of wild animal that just will do anything to survive kind of mentality. I loved after her victory when Edna went to Candy, shame, your plan didn't work. As if it was just all Candy's decision. The enmity there is really great.
It's so good.
I'm so certain that Lance has made Candy and Edna a team. There's just no doubt in my mind.
That would be such a genius fucking move.
It's got to be.
But then, also, how amazing would it be if those two then were in the final? You know, like if Candy and Edna somehow like rallied, pulled it together, played on their strengths and got through to the final.
Anything's possible. It also means that Jess and Buck is a team, which is a crazy good team. Crazy fun team as well. Anyway, getting ahead of ourselves.
Part of me, though, wonders if Lance will not put himself with Chris because Chris is such a strong player. Because whoever you pair yourself with, you're guaranteed to be in the final with if you get it to the final.
Yeah, so he might go
some middle ground.
Well, I get the feeling that I would put money on it being Edna and Candy. I just have a real strong feeling that that's the kind of Machiavellian thing he'd do. But there is a case for a Chris and Buck kind of situation than him and Jess, knowing that they actually balance each other out really well with the puzzling and the fitness and the crazy balance of Lance. Whenever you see him on a balance thing, it's weird.
The dancers have good balance, right?
Totally, but it doesn't look real. It looks CGI. Shall we get to episode 2? Because I think we need to talk a lot about the ending.
Okay. I do just want to say that how emo was it with both Edna and Brindley talking about their mums?
Oh, so much. And then also Candy and Bree talking about endometriosis.
I know. God, huggy bears all round.
And this silly little show, when it has the temerity to just get really emotional on you, you are not prepared, and it really smarts.
I also love how sassy Chris got back at camp. It wasn't even sassy. He was so pissed, and he was really biting because he found out that the original plan was for Chris and Bryn to go up against each other, and he was just obviously just heartbroken that he'd lost his BFF out of the competition.
Had to happen for the show, though.
Did have to happen.
And Brindley's now a star. Brindley, no disrespect, who I love and I've loved for years as a comic, came into the show as kind of an unknown, and now I feel like she has so much profile. You can imagine her doing almost anything, which is quite great for her. I
know, and it's funny because she's been on Shortland Street for a bit, but now it's Celebrity Treasure Island that's catapulted her. Chris did the Real Pod with me yesterday, right? And
so he's broken out then, is that what you're saying?
Sorry?
By being on the Real Pod, obviously that...
Yeah, so he's obviously, he's made it.
Yeah.
He's made it now.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Nowhere left to go.
Yeah.
But he was saying that it was the highest rating, the last week's episode, one of them was the highest rating that TV2 has had in 2 years.
What?
Yeah.
So people are loving this show?
People are loving this show.
Is this a network saver? Because remember when Pop Stars was supposed to be that show and it just didn't work?
Oh, no, really
But CTI is doing it.
I know.
Because I'm getting texts from my friend Sasha Judd, who does not watch New Zealand reality TV, almost quite proudly, but is just all over the show.
Scientists are leading the conversations about the future of Aotearoa and the biggest challenges of our time: our land, ocean and climate, our physical and mental well-being, our food health. It's never been more important to understand science. At the University of Otago, you'll study alongside world-renowned experts and researchers. Explore your postgraduate options now. He heringa tangata, he tūhura kōrero. Find out more at otago.ac.nz/PG Sciences.
Okay, episode 23. Okay, Awesome Foursome are now the dirtbags, according to Chris. Their uniforms are those lovely fluffy robes, and they want to get Jess on board. And there's this amazing triangle thing that comes into play that Chris keeps talking about, where the balance, he doesn't know where the balance of power is. Well, he does. He thinks he does.
He knows that Lance is the top of the triangle.
Yeah, but he also said sometimes Edna's the top.
Which isn't true.
Him. It's not true. It's not true.
He does have a bit of a castaway vibe in those in the moments. Like he's been in his head thinking about this real small thing for way too long.
And that's all of us in lockdown, right? I can relate. When I see Chris slowly unravelling, for a while, we mentioned before that he's been the kind of switched on commentator, but it gets to a point where now he's starting to see things that aren't there.
Yeah.
which Edna has been doing the entire time.
Yes.
And
yes.
continues to do.
And we're all there. That's potentially why it has been that show for Aotearoa in this period, is that it felt relatable in some completely insane way.
Okay, so the charity challenge was not really worth talking about too much. It was the pouring water over the heads thing. But Candy got her first win, and that's when we had the lovely moment about her charity and Brie also identifying with that. So I was just, oh my God, what a show in that moment. Then we get Jess joining the Awesome Foursome, but she's still very open about the fact that she's aligned closely with Anna and therefore kind of still has ties to the other alliance. She's just everyone's mate. She's the smiling assassin. I don't even think she means to be. That's how nice she is. Everyone's like, I've got your number, Jess. I think she's just happy to be in touch with everyone. Thanks very much,
Well, I think she wants to win very badly.
Yes, but I don't think she wants to play dirty to do it.
She wants to win honourably. And so, because I think you can be either a liar all the time and no one trusts you, but they know not to trust you, or you can be honest the whole time. It's the sort of in-between that makes people quite annoyed at you because they don't really know what to make of you. I think that Jess and Lance express two ends of a spectrum of the ways to play it, and they're the ones who are the most sort of interesting, whereas everyone in between are the ones who sort of seem to be losing it a bit. But, yeah. Amazing. Okay,
so the individual challenge is, what do they do for this one? They have to do a tower of words or something? They have to work out, there's an anagram. Quite a lot of anagrams this season as well.
Yeah, which when you see the letters, I wish that they would let you play at home a bit. If they could just give you a jumble of letters rather than saying it's descending. Because I was I would have just got it right away, but surely I wouldn't have.
No, because I think the problem is the cubes have got different letters on all the sides.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Well, that's very difficult.
Very, very difficult. Anyway, so the prize for this was having lunch with Ngāti Kuri, which was really a really amazing moment and something that was really cool to see on prime time as well. And they had a beautiful Kaimoana feast. Actually, we didn't see them eating it. We did see a giant fish that Clark gave
a monstrous tuna.
Love to get his mitts on.
I thought that scene was one of the highlights of the whole series, and really unexpectedly, the kind of thing that just would have been unimaginable a few years ago.
Yeah.
And was really sensitively handled, and you could see in the response of the contestants how much it meant to them, and that was just beautiful. That's Impact Television, and again, this is commercially funded reality TV, not a dime of public money in it. A kind of a hackneyed old format invented by Julie Christie, who's not beloved by a significant chunk of New Zealand's population. Somehow this comes out of it, and you're like, well, kind of love the world. It's not a predictable place.
Look, it's baby steps when we get in there, and it's nice to see and love to see it. But we'll just back up the boat for a wee moment because Anna got stood down. Edna played the stand down card. Anna got stood down, which means there was no way she was going to be able to win and therefore choose who was going to be in the elimination challenge. And she is pissed. She doesn't understand why. I'm not really sure I understand why. But anyway, who wins? Oh God, Jess wins. No, Chris. Who won this one?
I think Edna. No,
I didn't fucking write it down.
I'm freaking out. Lance?
Oh God, no. Lance. No, yes, Lance.
Lance won. He's really stoked because he won a puzzle one.
That's right. He was really sorry. It was a complete brain fart.
They were trying to outthink one another. Like they were like, "Oh, I can't put up the letters in the right order because people are copying me."
Yeah. But then people started copying the wrong answer. Yeah. It's just, they should have to do it when they can't see each other's.
Yeah, and then Lance comes through the middle. The individual challenges are less, they are falling apart a bit. Like in the last episode with Chris and Lance collaborating for the win.
Yeah.
Was sort of, it worked. In some ways it was like a smart short-circuiting of the rules, but it wasn't the intended way it was supposed to function.
Yeah, they're not as exciting for the viewer. But anyway, prize went to Lance. Everyone obviously got to share the lunch experience, but he obviously wins the right to choose who's going into the elimination, which is a huge thing. What else happened? Oh, Anna. So Anna was really emo, right? During the Kaimoana feast. She was like, lots of ITMs with her. She kind of commentated the whole thing. She was all like, it's just a game, and we're all kind of we're much more the same than we are different. She got very weepy. And she was like, these are all just nice people.
Yeah, I think that was what the function of the pepeha was, right?
It was right. And then the next thing we know, she's pissed with Jess because Jess knew that Anna was going to be stood down. So it's like those moments are there, but they don't last too long. Once you're back in the game, you're back in the game.
Yeah, but whatever they're doing, it's 100%. I also love, there was some scene, I remember, with Lance and Chris, and you're just looking at them, and Lance is like such a Mad Max looking character with his dyed hair and his pearls and his nail polish and stuff, and Chris with his sort of beard and like
sort of beard.
Well, yeah, it's a sort of beard.
His fear, yeah.
And you're like, as a vision of modern New Zealand, these two stars of the show, I was like, this is such a mean country that these are our stars. Like, you see the kind of tight manicuring and the kind of commodification of celebrity in other countries, and this is us. And I was like, man, this country rules.
There's kind of a cool thing about Celebrity Treasure Island as well, in that because they're already celebrities, it's not about like raising their profile. I mean, it certainly helps, but when you think about the way, certainly in the US, The Bachelor and The Bachelorette is going, is like everyone is there to get Insta famous and make decent coin, shilling, teeth whitening stuff. Like that is everyone's motivation for going on the show now, and it's made it a really bizarre kind of show. Still good. But when you've got celebrities on there who don't really need the extra, I mean, some of them could probably do with a little lift back into the spotlight. But for the most part, they're just there for a fee, a lovely time, a good experience, and winning some money for their charity.
Exactly. And then also, I think that you're watching them, like these are people, for the most part, you've seen them at their most poised. You've seen, Lance on stage with Beyonce, or I mean, obviously, maybe you've seen you've seen Anna Simsich win a gold medal. Like you've seen people, at their best, or through Instagram in a very controlled environment. Here, everyone's just kind of rough, rugged, letting it all hang out. Like it's kind of awesome just how the mutually assured looking like real grubby kind of elements of it. Everyone's wearing the same clothes day after day after day. It's a beautiful show.
It's so good. It's so good. Okay, what happened next was Lance lied to Chris about having Richie's clue for the 50,000th time. So as much as Chris and Lance are BFFs, Chris knows Lance has Richie's clue and knows that Lance continues to lie about it. And so he just can't put 100% of his trust in him, which is wise. Then Candy comes over. In comes Candy Lane, or shall we say Canny Lane, because she's turning into a bit of a player. And she offers to share the clue that her team has, her alliance has, in exchange for being kept out of the Elimination Challenge. This is win-win for Chris and Lance because they were never going to put her up for it anyway. So they go, yeah, okay, we'll do that. We'll agree to do that. And she's agreed to share the clue with them the next day. Sure enough, she didn't go in the Elimination Challenge. We'll find out what happened with the clue a little bit later on. But let's talk about the elimination. It was Anna versus Buck, another anagram. And this was painful to watch. This is why the letters were just falling over with, a single hair moved out of place and all the letters just tumbled off. Did you notice? Like, obviously went on for ages, right? The sun basically was setting. But did you notice at the end, when Buck won and they took their hands off the apparatus that was holding the letters up, they all just stayed there? All the letters stayed there. The wobbly apparatus that was very sensitive to movement was just stuck stationary. So at some point, they realised this is not work. This is too hard. It's not working, forever. And they've had to go in and make some adjustments.
Oh, that's good. That's good eyes, Jane. It did look like, because they were 45 minutes in at one point. I think they had the time come up on screen. And I was like, that's a long, long time to be doing.
Such a long time.
Such a boring and stupid game. But then at the end, I'm sure that they had a cutaway of Anna's letters and they were completely out of order. And then from another angle, they looked like they were.
They were in order, and then they were. Yeah, it was.
Maybe it was a producer's ejection. Who knows?
I don't know. They couldn't possibly fiddle with the storyline. Surely not. Okay, and that's the end of that episode. Anna goes home. She's had a lovely time, life-changing experience, so on and so forth. Tonight's episode is a charity. We start off with a charity challenge of Hide the Blueberry. Quite fun to watch.
I didn't watch it.
Especially, you missed Candy saying dick and then winning 5K for her efforts.
No, that is something to miss.
She had to say 3 words that began with D, and one of them was dick.
I love that so much. Damn, that's cool.
Her husband's probably called Richard. It was quite the questions were like, name 3 things that make you gag. What would Candy put all over her face? Like it was like after hours. Buck shares his clue with Jess. Candy meets Lance with this handwritten note. I didn't think it was the real deal, right? They didn't actually read it out to us at this point, so I didn't know whether or not she was telling the truth or not about whether or not.
Did you think that she'd written a fake clue?
I wasn't sure what was going on.
I mean, Lance is due being duped by someone, like it needs to happen, but I don't think that Candy did it. I think she was actually genuinely being really nice, saying, I'm not just going to show you this clue, I'm going to give you a copy of it so you've
But it really sounded like she was backpedaling, and he's like, why didn't you just bring the real one? She's like, well, I wanted you to keep it. It's like, that's a step too far in being nice. It sounded like she was scrambling for a reason to cover up. But she
Candy's
wasn't. I mean, it was the
lovely.
legit clue. It wasn't until she said something like, me writing poetry, I mean, as if. It wasn't until then that I thought, okay, no, maybe she did share the real clue. Anyway, he comes back to camp. He immediately shares with Edna, who's not privy to this deal with Candy, that this whole thing took place. We don't hear him share the clue itself. And then Chris is doing an In the Moment interview, and he's still trying to figure out if Lance is trustworthy. And he sees Candy wander over to have a quiet, pensive moment by the sea. And calls her over. And I love this. Like, it was during his In the Moment interview. It wasn't planned by production. There's just no way that this was very much on the fly.
That was Chris as producer. I loved it.
And he was very clever. He basically said, look, tell me the clue, and then I'll see if Lance tells me that what you've told me, or if he tells me it's something else, which was just a really good way to find out if Lance is trustworthy. Turns out he kind of is.
On this
episode?
Yeah, in this moment.
In this moment.
He's just so brazen. I love the way that Chris, he's a very good judge of the psychology of his fellow competitors, and he just knew exactly how to get what he needed out of Candy, and it just worked the charm.
Totally. And it was more really, I felt like he told Candy it was about figuring out whether or not Lance was trustworthy. But I think it was more about him just thinking, if Lance doesn't tell me the clue, at least maybe I can get it off, direct off Candy. It was insurance. It was an insurance policy. So good. Okay, individual challenge was playing for a hack. And this is the one where Lance and Chris worked together. They had to get an image in the mud and make the puzzle. Seemed very difficult, but then they worked together to give Chris the win. He got a great prize. He got not only a hack for the final treasure hunt, but he also got to make a call back home. And he called Michael, and again, lovely.
That was the most emotional one.
It's just hit after hit after hit this week of just warm fuzzies.
That destroyed me, eh? It was so, so lovely.
It was so lovely. I love Michael's like a background player in Chris's Instagram. He's not often front and centre. He's just kind of often noodling around in the background, and he just seems amazing. I know nothing of him, but I love him.
It was a beautiful, beautiful portrait of young love.
Okay, Chris got details of how the maps will work in the final treasure hunt. That was his hack. And for some reason, he suspects they're basically camped on top of the treasure. So time will tell on that. And he tells Lance, this is where things get a bit weird, because he tells Lance that he's going to let him know what's on the scroll, the hack, but he doesn't actually tell him. He just says, I'm going to let you know. And then Lance comes clean about the Candy clue. So it feels like they're all sharing things. But Lance, I don't know if he's picked up on the fact that he hasn't actually got that information yet. So it'll be interesting. That's another reason why Lance should pair up with Chris. It's
really, really smart by Chris, because it basically is he's made the promise. I think he's good for it, but it also means that Chris, Lance has to stay with him, which is why I think they probably will pair up.
But presumably Chris didn't know that this weird pairing thing was going to happen.
No, but you still have, there's going to be less of you by the end, and that someone's going to have a role in choosing that. So,
but I also spotted that there was definitely some timeline discrepancies, because when Chris was sharing with Lance that he was going to tell him the clue, Lance was like, yeah, Candy's going to show me the written version later. But we'd already seen her showing him the written version, so I don't even trust my eyes anymore.
Very, very much. I loved are we on the final challenge yet?
We are on the final challenge, which is a weird, just pure luck kind of a challenge, right?
No, it's not. It's like an amazing...
Can you explain the rules to me? I skimmed it because I had a podcast to record, i.e. this one.
I love this challenge. This is like a real kind of like a card counting, game theory sort of casino brain type classic where you basically, you know, it's like do you remember those ads that used to be all over the internet back in the day where you could get a TV for $40, but it was like an auction where the lowest unique bid won, and so everyone would bid like $1, or you could bid like $60, but if there was only one person bid $41, then they won it. It's basically a version of that game, but so. Like, and on some level, it is pure chance. Like, it wasn't a puzzle, and it wasn't a game of strength, but it was absolutely gameable. The fact was that Lance won with 3 when anyone could have won with 1 or 2, and I feel like the sort of people who really backed themselves as playing the puzzles well were the ones who got sort of 4 and 5. Like, they were assuming that everyone would sort of gravitate toward the lower numbers. But if you sort of did the crazy maths of it, there were only 6 of them, and probably no one was going to go for the 1, and maybe they were going to assume a lot of people would go for 2. So that's why everyone went for like 4 or 5.
But if the lowest number wins, why wouldn't you go for if someone else has the same number than you're out?
That's the thing. It's the lowest unique number. That's why Lance won with 3. But everyone else was like 4s and 5s, and it was like, it was just really, really interesting to watch the sort of psychology of it, especially because you had 60 seconds to do it. You couldn't think about all of the game theory kind of elements of it.
Oh my God, you just broke my brain. Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just was like, I loved it. I thought it was such a cool...
Can we play that when we get back in the real world?
I would love to do that. I think playing it with like a relatively large group of people over and over would be quite fun.
We should just do it. We should definitely. I mean, if we get to have a Christmas party, can we do just a Celebrity Treasure Island inspired Christmas party?
I would love to do that. I don't think it should be the first thing we do back in the real world, because there might be more fun things to do than this weird game.
I disagree.
But anyway,
entirely.
The result is that Lance wins again. And Lance is just, I feel like there's something about it where Lance feels destined to win. And even when he has no idea about the game, he somehow kind of pulls it out of his ass. Even if he comes in late. And the affirmation of getting the word puzzle and then getting this, he just is absolutely feeling it. And now that he's got this power to pick these duos, there's just these amazing quotes near the end. And I love the fact that he has to sleep on it and everyone has to kind of live with this. You know, they didn't make him choose at the time.
But also, presumably, we're going to see them doing some wheeling and dealing to try and convince him who he should be, you know, pairing up.
Oh, and you could see, like, some people, like, I remember who was it? Oh, I think, God, I'm trying to remember. There were certain people who were leaders and hated the fact that they had to be the decision maker. Mm-hmm. And I think that was even described Lance at various times because he had such a long run as captain. Now he's absolutely reveling in it. And he's like, I'm about to be a villain and there's a savage twit and I just switched it. And then Chris Parker, the last line is, it's maniac level genius evil, describing what Lance does. And I'm just like, I just adore this amazing twist that was thrown in right at the end. I can't freaking wait.
The great thing with Lance, I feel like, is he's won the things that count. Like, there's plenty of stuff that he's not won, but the ones where it really mattered, like, this is such a key one.
But also, like, the bed. Like, it's really good to get a few good nights sleep.
And he won that by playing, like, one piece of pirate gold, and then he bid money he didn't have to fuck everyone else over. Like, he is just amazing. He deserves to win.
He really should win. No one is playing 4D chess on Celebrity Treasure Island like he is. No. It's amazing.
Now, next week's got to be the last week, right?
It is.
3 episodes to go. So, man, what are we going to do after that? Cry?
I was thinking about watching Married at First Sight UK or The Bachelorette Australia.
Oh, yeah, because Brooke. So, we actually did a whole thing recapping the Honey Badger season. And Brooke
was a huge star.
She came third, I think. She walked out of her own accord, and she's bisexual. So they've got women and men. Is it the first of the franchise in the world?
First bisexual and first Indigenous. And I feel like it's going to be a hot season. I couldn't actually find anywhere to stream it, though, because it's playing on Bravo here.
Oh, how do you even stream Sky stuff?
I think it should be on 3 now.
Hang on. No, Bravo's in with Discovery.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, God.
Anyway, we'll do our research. But maybe we do that. Because I need some kind of multi-episode reality TV just to put into my brain and have a chat about.
Let's talk off mic about that, Duncan. Hey, thank you everyone for listening. I just want to do one final plug for our corny pins. Get your order in time for Christmas. Christmas is actually marching towards us at quite a speed. So go to thespinoff.co.nz/shop. Get yourself a beautifully designed by Julia Howard, who is a corny, lovely enamel pin.
I thought you said...
got a backing board by Toby Morris. What?
I thought you said Christmas is actually in March for a second. I was like...
Oh, that scans.
I was like, this feels like the kind of year where the government would have just while we were here at 1 p.m, the government was just like, we're just going to move Christmas till March because we just have got supply chain issues. And you're like, oh, that's annoying. Oh, well.
I mean, it may still happen. It just doesn't feel like that's off the table, Dunk.
It's all on the table.
The whole world's gone topsy-turvy. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you to T.I. here for producing. And thank you, Duncan. It's been lovely to see your face and hear your voice.
Same. Bye,
okay.
Jane.
Bye.
Do you find it hard staying optimistic with all the financial news in the media? I'm Bernard Hickey, and on my podcast, When the Facts Change, I'm here to help you navigate the ever-changing landscape of economics in Aotearoa. So join the conversation every Friday on When the Facts Change, brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network in partnership with KiwiBit.
Talofa Lover. I'm Madeline Chapman, editor at The Spin-Off. If you have the means, consider supporting our high-quality journalism by becoming a Spin-Off member. Sign up now at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
The Spin-Off Podcast Network.